Welcome, everyone, to my channel, Crossroads Meets Ocean Rose. This is the Walk with Faith podcast with special guest Michael Kopf. Welcome to the show. I'm happy you're here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
You are a podcast host yourself, correct?
I am for 2 years now.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about your shows?
So my Tuesday night show is originally was called Exploring Our Secret Past. And a friend and I created it kind of in a hurry because Meta was coming and we weren't going to be able to be on the network pages. So we took and had 6 months of what we called a trial period and getting to know how to podcast in paranormal field and getting to know some people. And then in December we decided we needed to rebrand, reinvent the show because the title was just confusing everyone. And we somehow stumbled on the energy that surrounds us and it just stuck and we launched and everybody was enjoying it. We had a new intro that my co-host did and we were just having fun and getting to learn how to podcast and all the different things that you can do with podcasting. And in the middle of the first season, my co-host decided she wanted to do her own show, which was great because I had known that was coming. And I had to get a hold of my cousin who did ads for his mom and see if he could do intros. And thus, my intro and outro was born. I have to give credit to that. That's my cousin Tyler Estes, and he has a company that does that. So if you're looking for that, let me know. I'll shamelessly plug him.
Yeah, your intro and outro, it's really good.
Yeah, and that's Writing Through the Unknown.
Okay.
And so the funny story about the intros was I just sent him pictures and topics and said, "Can you make a video, an intro for this?"
Okay.
And then at the end of that 6 months, I got a hold of him and I said, "Hey, look, we're about to go into season two. Let's kind of refresh our image. And what can you do to help me out? Because I need thumbnails to look more professional, ads." And he's like, "Oh, I can do all that for you."
Oh, that's
I was like,
nice.
Perfect."
That's really nice.
So got a, so I sent him a message and said, "Okay, I'm looking to talk about, a couple of these topics in addition, with what's going on." And he goes, "Okay." And then sends me back. And that intro we actually had three versions of and finally settled on one, the one that's used right now. And we we enjoy working with each other because he is infinitely patient with me and he has the same personality that I have of I want it to look right and I want it to look perfect if you could ever be in the
Mm-hmm.
perfect moment. And so we both strive for that, and so we work well together. And so that's my Tuesday night show and with the intros and the topics that are discussed in there. But that show is my paranormal show where we
Mm-hmm.
talk about
Mm-hmm.
ghost hunting or We can talk about mediumship. We talk about stargates, triangles, portals. So, pretty much anything unexplained, I probably am going to or have had a show about on my podcast.
Uh huh.
And so that's the joy of that show. And last June, uh, let me back up a second. So June of 2023, because I don't know when people will be watching this. My dad passed away, and we, as a family, my dad, my mom, and I, are really into the esoteric hidden knowledge and kind of like what people construe as conspiracy theories. And so he had always wanted me to do a show, but I never felt comfortable enough because I don't have a lot of background in it. And so with his passing, a couple of months later, with three guests out of 10 shows booked, I reached out to my cousin and had an intro and outro made, and we launched Writing Through the Unknown, which in the beginning was twice a month on a Wednesday, Thursday, or a Saturday, depending on when the guests were available. And that series delves into topics such as when you see a UFO, is that our UFO or is that an inner Earth or hollow Earth UFO or is that from in the stars UFO? Where did it originate from? So we look into that. We look into portals. Wanting to get into the disappearing people topic. I delved into Tartaria in season 2.
Can you explain to people what that is? Who,
Tartaria?
yeah, who aren't familiar?
So, Tartaria was a civilization that appeared on maps around the 1700s, 1800s, that was removed from maps. It was taken off, and World War II kind of was like the final nail in the coffin for them. And a lot of the orphans that we saw in World War II being bussed in to places from Europe were the children of Tartaria.
Oh, it's
So
interesting.
Tartaria was a land of what we would consider giants. I think their average height was around 8, 9 feet tall, and they were more advanced than we were. They knew how to use free energy. They knew how things worked around this planet that we have no idea how to access. And so they, I guess, were deemed a threat, and both the Axis and Ally powers bombed and destroyed that civilization and all records from it. So if you go looking into a history book, you're not going to find it.
Okay. That's interesting.
And yeah, and so I was so thrilled when I was able to get a guest come on to share her research about it, and I've had a couple others on it, and it's kind of because it's a civilization that's no longer here, but it was here. It's hotly debated as to whether or not it really was a civilization or was it a group of people that was mislabeled and they are always here. So that's one of the things why I like having the show is we delve into that question and try and see where the evidence takes us and formulate your own opinion on it. And so that's the joys of writing through the unknown, which is now 3 Wednesdays a month. And that's the intro that you were talking about
Mm-hmm.
that my cousin blew me away with when I just said, here are topics that I want to talk about. And he goes, I got this new style. Can I try it? I was like, sure. And boom, that intro came and I'm like, wow. I even if I don't have a show, I will play that intro because I'm like, yeah, it is so cool.
It is really cool. It's literally like a movie or a show.
Yeah, I
Just
call it a
looking at
movie within a movie.
yeah.
And I you know how we're getting towards the end of the year, so it's like your mind starts thinking about what we're doing for next season. Are we going to have a next season? And so I've listened to a lot of my fan base, and writing through the unknowns intro will stay the same, most likely.
Mm-hmm.
And the energy that surrounds us, I am going to look at updating and seeing if we can't bring it up to the same caliber style as writing through the unknown,
Mm-hmm.
or even better. I'll have to see where my cousin's at and what new styles he's got, and the thumbnails will get an update on both shows just because I like to have a different feel and look
Mm-hmm.
to separate the seasons out if I can. And who knows, I may end up tweaking the intro to writing through the unknown a little bit. Shows host prerogative. Have to see where I'm feeling it.
I love what you're talking about. I've watched a lot of your shows. Both I have I'm trying to think if I've seen Paranormal Versus. I probably have. But Riding Through the Unknown and the energy that surrounds us, I've watched both. And I love both of them very much. I love the guests that are on them and the topics that you talk about. Some of them can be very controversial, but it's really a space where people can share knowledge and their experiences that they have seen or studied firsthand and have knowledge on that a lot of people don't know about. It's very enlightening. Um, and so I just, because this is popping up into my mind, um, you're saying here that you had your first paranormal encounter and experience at 2. So I want to know what triggered this journey for you to lead you to where you are now with podcasts, with all of this. Was it that experience at 2? Was it your different travels, your education as a Reiki master? Like, what led you to this point? Your near death experiences, or all of it?
So, wow, that's kind of an interesting question to, think about. What was the catalyst? And I would have to honestly say, for me, in my perspective, I know this is going to sound really strange to the audience and everything, but the fact that I was born was the catalyst.
Wow. Why is that, if you don't mind me asking?
So, ever since I was born, I've always felt different. I would think different, and I would notice there were differences about me. And so, one of the things that I noticed that I don't really share a lot is when I was growing up and living here in Texas, I have 2 sisters that I'm estranged from, and mending the fence maybe with one of them, my oldest sister. And she showed me when I was growing up in elementary school McGruffy readers that were like the education books of the 1800s.
Okay.
And so during the summer, I would be doing those with my sister. And she would act like she was the teacher and I would be the student. And so I would be doing coursework from the McGruffy readers. And as you can, if you can imagine, textbooks from the 1800s are way different from what we have today.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that gave me insight and knowledge ahead of what was going on around me. And I had a friend who I met from Belgium who was like way smarter than we were in our class. And I said, "You should be totally in the next grade." And he goes, "That's what grade I was in when I moved here." And I said, "So why are you in this grade?" He goes, "Because your system drops me back a year because I'm from another country." I was like, "That's not right."
Right.
And so I feel like I had that insightful, rebellious side, even growing up. And I would say, and I had no memory of the experience at two growing up. So that's why I can't really say that was the catalyst because I didn't know about that till years later.
How did you find out about that years later?
I asked my parents why my eyebrow had a bald spot in it, and they said I had fallen down a vent shaft when I was two, and a wire nicked my eye
Mm-hmm.
and the eyebrow, and that was the only mark on me. I had no broken bones, no broken tendons, no muscle injuries. I mean, I just got up, walked away from it, but my eyebrow got nicked, and to this day, no hair grows on that spot.
It's almost like you were protected as you were falling.
Funny you should say that.
That's what it sounds like literally just guided down. Mm-hmm.
So I find out years later, doing an interview on my show, that, well, hold on, let me backtrack a second because let me keep the continuity of the reveal. So, as a teenager, I got a vision of falling down the shaft, seeing a being, like a star being,
Mm-hmm.
talking to me as I'm falling down the shaft and then being set on the ground. And that's why I walk away. And I got pieces of the conversation in my memory. And so this is the part that a lot of people find amazing is at 2 years old, mind you, when this is happening, I am talking to this being about how am I going to be able to help humanity? What gifts have I available? When am I going to get them? How am I going to get them? And how this path is going to proceed. And so then I get sit on the ground and go about my day and have no memory of this conversation at 2 years old.
Wow.
And my first thought when I realized what conversation I had, I was like, what 2 year old thinks about this
Yeah.
and negotiates with a being from another world?
Wow, that's incredible. And you remember this as a teenager. Came back to
Right.
you.
The memory starts flooding in it as a teenager. And then fast forward another 20 years, maybe. I'm talking to a guest on my show, and she goes, The spirit that you see that you think you talk to is not the one that you talk to. That's the one that pulled you accidentally into the shaft and caused you to fall. And another being came, and that's the one you talked to that helped you. And my mind was blown. I was like, wait, there was two of them? I barely remember one.
Wow.
And so, and she said, you are protected, that you have energy around you that she said I had never seen before on anyone. And it all stems from this moment, is why this moment happened. And so I was like, okay. And in my mind, I pictured it being attic because I lived in up north. So we had an attic and a basement. So I'm in my mind picturing attic, second floor, first floor, basement. And having this conversation is not going to happen in a matter of seconds because that's how long the fall would be. So I realized I was taken out of time because that's the only way to explain how I could have such a long in depth conversation.
Right.
And on another show, I clarified that my mom said, if you're going to tell the story, you better tell it right. We're on the second floor, and there was plywood that she had placed over the vent. So whoever pulled me in had moved the plywood so
Whoa.
that I would fall in. And I was dressed in winter clothes. So imagine, if you will, late 70s, early 80s, those lovely, puffy looking outfits that they put us in
Yeah.
for the winter to make sure not an ounce of cold got on you. That's what I was wearing on the second floor when I fell. And so she said in her mind, she was thinking the clothes is what cushioned the fall. And that's why I was able to get up no problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, that could be. And I shared my memory that was coming in. And so I then told this story to another person on a show, and they kind of made me laugh because I'm thinking all of this is like really cool and really like amazing and like the ooh ah kind of thing. And then she turns and says to me, the thing I find most amazing is you could understand the
Yeah.
being that saved you
Exactly. Yeah.
and could communicate with them. And I was like, I had never even thought about that.
Yeah. At 2 years old, you're talking to a star being or whatever being that was, a celestial, I mean, a light being, right? Um, and you're having a full conversation. Um, and it was like a long conversation while you're falling at 2. Understanding
Right.
this. Yeah, that blows my mind.
Yeah. And I was like, see, so for me, that's like where a lot of things in my life are like second nature. So I don't feel like it's like I don't see the ooh ah because I'm like I could always talk to them. I could always understand them. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's like that's where I kind of laugh and I'm like, that is really astonishing. And it's like I had to take a step out of the persona and look at it and be like, wow, that really is cool and such a blessing.
Oh, it is. It is. I think so. And we'll get into this about all these other encounters, but like for me, mine was not 2. I believe, like 7 years old when I saw my first. And there was no conversation. It was my grandfather, and I was in shock. in the middle of the night when I just woke up and just saw him right there. But almost there was no conversation, there was nothing like that. So yeah, I mean, at 2, um, to be able to understand and have this full conversation is pretty magnificent.
It is. And one of the other things that I'll share with you that kind of, like I was saying, set me aside from others and I knew was different is my parents would start to talk to something about something. I'd say, no, that's not correct. It was this. And they'd go, actually, you're right. How did you know that? You weren't even born yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so we coined the term like hovering around or something. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I was there. It's like I clearly have memory of this moment. And in metaphysics, we're taught parents choose their parents as children. So the next generation, like me being the child, I would go around and look for the parents that I
Mm-hmm.
feel would best
Right.
fit me to do what I need to do.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's like apparently I have memories of checking in and like scoping it out and being like, yeah, and
Yeah.
deciding this is
You're
the
so
right
right.
fit.
Oh my gosh, you're so right, Michael. I love it. No. Okay, not to get off the, well, we're still on the subject, but no, that's exactly like when I was pregnant with Ryan, and I was like I could think of all these girl names, but it I couldn't find a boy name. I was like, what am I going to name him if I have a boy, cuz I didn't know yet. And then I had a dream. Ryan literally came to me in my dream and he was like sitting in my belly, in my womb, and he's like, almost like Buddha. And he's like, "Hi, mom. I'm your son, and my name is Ryan. I want you to name me Ryan." And I woke up and I was like, whoa, if I'm really going to have a boy, this is going to be incredible. And sure enough, I had a boy and I named him Ryan. But you're right. Like, you guys, like, we all do. We choose our parents, go searching, but you remember these other experiences. So it's like from your perspective as a child, choosing your parents, seeing from the outside, searching, right? Versus the mother having the dream. Did your mom dream about you or have any visions of you?
I'm not sure. We'd never really talked about that, like that deep into the subject. But one thing I want to say about, one step further about, choosing your parents, they're like, no, I don't get along with my parents. They don't understand me. They don't this or that. But that's the reason you chose them,
Mm-hmm.
because they would push you to do what you're meant to do. And they care enough about you to push you away to grow or to force
Right.
you to look at stuff you may not necessarily want to look at, but that's the agreement you guys made. And so they're fulfilling it exactly as they're supposed to. And that is a higher love than anything I ever could imagine, to sit there and go, I'll give birth to you. I will love you. You will start to hate me. We will fight nonstop. You will disappear from me. And in the end, we'll reunite and talk all about it as if nothing ever happened. It's the beauty of that lesson and love that parents have with their kids, is it's not always meant to be happy and joyous. There are the rough patches, and that's all part of what we knew they could handle it and that they would handle it right for us, and that's why we pick them. And that, I believe, is part of the ascension process that's
Mm-hmm.
coming. And so, yeah, and so even now, in full transparency, is I was talking with you before we even started the show, and I was like, yeah, I am totally open to talk about topics I do not talk about on my show or other interviews because I feel like it's time. And so to heal and to grow and to make journeys make sense, we sometimes
Mm-hmm.
have to relive stuff we don't really want to relive. And you'll notice as you relive it, it's no longer carrying the same
Right.
energy as it once did. And that to me is the sign that you've healed it and it's time to let it go.
Right. Yeah. It's very healing to go back, relive that, share it so that way you can process it. And you're right about if you can share it, then it does show that you've healed from that particular or pretty much healed from that situation. I agree with you. Yeah. So, I'm just processing everything that you're saying. So how old were you again when you got that memory, Michael? You were a
I
teenager.
was, I would say probably around 13, between 12 and 14. Might have been 13.
Okay, and so you said that you had a few paranormal experiences around that age as well.
So I grew up seeing shadows. Like I would always see these shadow beings out of the corner of my eye. And if I focused on them, they would disappear. And if I just looked out of the corner of my eye like a glance, I would see them. And so I thought this was just a game I was playing with these beings, and this was all part of my spiritual growth. That, you know, are these, guardians that are watching over and just making sure everything's okay and aren't supposed to be seen, or, you know, I never really thought about anything else. And then years later, getting into paranormal podcasting, I hear people say, "Oh, there's the shadow beings who are these dark entities, and you need to be careful if they're around you." And I was like, "Well, I kind of grew up with them."
You're like, I'm not afraid of
So,
them.
yeah. And so now I look at it now from the perspective of maybe they were watching over me and protecting me, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe they were studying me and trying to figure me out because the protection that was around me that my friend told me about probably made me very interesting to them because they couldn't attach to feed off of me. So they could have been looking, and that's why they disappeared whenever I saw them straight on, is because the energy and the light that was around me was too much for them. And so they're like, how is this possible in such a young form? Who are you?
Do you think that your protectors, your guides, would let those shadow beings come that close to you if um, if they were there to harm you? Maybe you did have things that were of dark and light that were protecting you.
Well, I don't know about, because like when you say, get that close,
Yeah, to where you
they
could see
weren't
them.
really that close. I mean, it would be like sitting on a couch in the middle of a living room and they're in a door frame.
Okay. I'm
So
not,
it's
yeah.
not like they were like sitting next to me and going, "Oh,
No.
he's seen me, gotta go."
That would be too close for my home. So that's why I asked you that question, like a negative energy, um, your guides being so protective or what is protecting you, allowing something to get that even in your home, unless it was there to not do harm to you. I'm just curious if you thought about it from that perspective.
I don't know that we did because I don't even know if at that time we even were really looking at even cleansing and protecting the home
Mm-hmm.
because that we were all still so new to
Uh-huh.
metaphysics and everything that I don't know that we thought about that.
That is
And
such a good point you just made. You made such a good point. Oh my gosh, Michael.
it
So,
happens.
no, no, it does. We could go back and forth. No, but that's brilliant. So, like, I've talked to people and they're like, yes, like, I'm guarded and protected, but it takes many things to protect our physical environment. We have a job to do as well as physical beings, along with our guides and angels, the Most High, the universe, everyone, because it depends on what people believe. But so, like, as a physical individual, it takes many forms of cleansing, and it's cleansing the home, protecting the home. So, we do our part on the physical. Along with knowing that our guides, our protectors are doing it also in the spirit or surrounding us, so it's like a team effort. So you just made a really good point because I actually had to say that to someone. I think it was like yesterday because they're like, no, my guide did it for me. Yeah, but we're also held accountable for, like, we have to put in the work as well.
Well, if you thought that was good, wait till you hear the insight I just got about it.
Okay.
So, you know how when couples get their first home, they call it the starter home?
Right.
Well, I think this home was our starter for our journey into the metaphysics because there were
Mm-hmm.
so many traumas and so
Mm-hmm.
many struggles and awarenesses that came out of there. It was like kind of like our proving ground home
Mm-hmm.
of are you going to go for the light or are you going to go for the dark?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to, which side are you going to be on? Are you going to pick a side? Are you going to be in both? Are you, what are you going to do? How are you going to handle this or that?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, for example,
Sounds like you're talking to my guardian angel, putting you at a crossroads there. Which side you gonna pick?
I've always been told by my guides in readings that I could go either way, that my future, like, path was never cast in stone. Like, I could go and be the truest, brightest beacon of light, or I could be the darkest, lowest vibration, thriving there. So it's like I always have to be mindful of where and how I'm reacting because I straddle the fence and it's not always, you could spend, well, let me put it this way. So, those who have watched my show know I use TV shows or movies to make points really clear. And in this moment, I'm gonna do it.
Oh goodness, here we. Okay, I don't even know if I've seen what you're gonna say, but go for it.
Star Wars, when you
Oh,
look at the
I
Jedi,
have. I have.
the Jedi
Okay.
were the force of peace, guardians of peace, were never meant to fight in wars.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened to the one who was supposed to be the chosen one? He got emotional, attached, he lost perspective, he got persuaded by the other side, the Sith side, of saying, hey, if you're going to protect this person, we're the ones who really can protect them because we can prevent this. And he was lied to
Mm-hmm.
about what will be done, and he bought into the lie. and went from the person who was supposed to bring balance and keep the peace
Mm-hmm.
to one of the greatest, quote, villains and dark forces
Mm-hmm.
that was there by one choice.
Exactly.
So that's where, like I say, I'm on the fences. Even though everything I do is towards the light, I got to be careful because I don't know where and when that one choice
Mm-hmm.
may arrive, in which case all the good I've done has been outdone and I'm forever marked into this.
But see, you're discerning about that. You're aware of it, which is good.
Right. And the thing that people don't realize that I think was the true message to the Star Wars movies, and I know there's a lot of them, but even the chosen one comes back into the light in the end.
Mm-hmm.
He's like has his redemption moment. And so to me, it's like the reality of choice is forever. There is no once you make one choice, that's it, you're done.
Every second is a new beginning.
So and so I kind of ease up on myself with it, but I still keep a watchful eye, but I'm more forgiving of myself because I know if I do have that moment where I may mistakenly step into the lower vibrations, I had the choice to step back into the higher vibrations.
Exactly. But that's about evolution. That's about your journey, your growth. Because there's a difference. There's a difference between deciding to stay in the lower vibrations and continue on that path. And then there's the other choice of acknowledging it and being like, okay, how can I make a change? I'm aware of this, and now I'm going to step out of this low vibration and I'm going to work on that, or I'm going to change it. That's a
Right.
positive choice.
Joseph Campbell calls it the hero's journey. And for the longest time, I don't know how this came about, but somehow society put in that the hero's journey was a male journey, and it's not. It's for both.
Mm-hmm. I would say so.
And I love when it comes to like Star Wars and everyone references the hero's journey. Everybody goes, yes, they're talking about Luke. And I'm like, yes, they're talking about Luke, but they're also talking about Anakin. They're also talking about Han, Leia. Every
Yeah.
character in that movie had a hero's journey.
Mm-hmm. Their own hero's journey, their soul's journey. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, everybody has a hero's journey. And
Mm-hmm.
I want that to sink in to everyone listening to this. Every person, every being, every star being, every race, every creature, everything that has energy has a hero's journey.
That's right. And we have a choice, right? To be on that journey. It's
Right.
difficult. It's not easy. I think that's the thing too, Michael, is that it is not an easy journey. That's why I like the term hero's journey. It's like it's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be painful, but it's worth it.
Right. And the key to the hero's journey, beyond watching yourself grow and seeing how you react to situations, the true key to the hero's journey is finding that power that's in your core being, where your energy comes from, where all your memories are kept, And when I say all your memories, I mean past lives, current lives, and lives that have yet to happen, because everyone thinks of time as a linear natural construct. That is the farthest from the truth. Man created time, not nature, not the gods. Man created time. And the primary example of that is the 1940s. To get more work time out of the people, daylight savings was invented, in which case we got an extra hour of work for a certain time, and then it got put back. And I can tell you, you may be sitting there saying, well, that still doesn't prove anything, but there are places in Indiana and Arizona that don't abide by it.
Yeah. That's true.
England goes on daylight savings and off it different time than we do. Japan doesn't even recognize it. So if this is a natural element, we all ought to be on it, and it ought not be so hard to keep track of. And I have a friend in Canada who actually, when I did an interview with her, she asked what time zone I was in, and I said Central. So she goes, "Oh, so it'll be 7 o'clock your time, which is, I think it was 8:30 her time." And I was like, 8:30? How is that? Because
Yeah.
daylight savings and the time zones are by hours. And she goes, "No, we have a half hour in ours too." And
Wow.
I was like, that even is even more confusing. And
Right.
so, let alone that being that, but time, I have learned and studied and have experienced in my own path, time is a loop. Our timeline of existence is a loop where we are living the past, present, and future all in this one moment. And when you study metaphysics, they always share to be mindful of the power of the moment, that the moment is the most important time in your journey, because that's where a lot of decisions are made and a lot of choices are made. And you'll hear growing up, and you'll hear throughout life, well, we did the best we could with what we knew in that moment, which again points out that moment was the key point in time. Well, with timelines not being linear, that means everything is impacted by what you do. So when people say, look back in your past, because that's where you have to understand where you're coming
Yeah.
from,
Yeah. I've heard.
they're not meaning to go and look into your past and saying, okay, in the third grade, I,
No.
stole this shoehorn.
No.
Or in the fifth grade, I stole a piece of gum from a store, and
No.
how horrible that was.
The past. They're talking about.
No, what they're saying is your
Yeah.
genealogy, your soul,
Exactly.
your past lives
Yeah.
all impact you in this moment. You may be walking and seeing somebody, and all of a sudden you get like anger in you, and you go off and, blow off steam somewhere, I hope, or you may end up yelling at somebody or do road rage or whatever, and be like, I don't know where that came from, but it felt good to let it out. That's because you came in contact with a moment from a past life that triggered an emotional response in this moment. And even bigger yet is, say you have in your life patterns that you cannot explain. You don't know where you learned them from. You don't know where, they came from, but they're always there guiding you. Those are past lives leading
Yeah,
into this moment.
of course. Yeah.
And you may make choices
Mm-hmm.
that you don't understand that in the future makes total sense. That's the future influencing the moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you made the choice different than you think you should have, because your future self knew what you needed and guided you in the past, in the present moment. And I know this is very confusing sounding, but in essence, we just have to realize that we don't live for the future.
Mm-mm.
We don't live for the past because we are living it in this moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, like, I don't know if I've told you this before. Like when I did past life regression, I believe so. Like I saw myself, um, the past version of myself. I looked the same, except I believe I was in Italy somewhere, and I was running from somebody. And what's really interesting is I could not speak. I was like literally mute. I could not talk. I was wearing like a pink satin, almost like ball gown, had long flowy hair that was like curled, very, very lovely. But I couldn't talk. And I was barefoot. And in this lifetime, okay, so I don't even know. I mean, what century that was. But in this life, I had many situations where like my toe got crushed from a boat. I had issues with my feet and my ankles. I had a tonsillectomy to where I couldn't talk for a while. I've had my neck fused to where they had to go through my vocal cords and move the voice box over. I've been told not to speak. So it's like when you go back in time and you realize that the past lives really do influence today. And it goes really deep. I mean,
Well, and there's a whole nother level that we don't even realize that we're just starting to understand, and that's the quantum level.
mm-hmm,
And on the quantum level, your experience of being in the pink ball gown
mm-hmm.
could have been an alternate timeline that you've seen. You
Yeah,
experienced yourself in another timeline and watched events play out,
yeah.
and that's you on another timeline
Oh my
or
gosh,
people
Michael.
on another parallel
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
universe.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, do you want to know what I saw? And this is perfect to discuss. Do you want to know what I. Okay. Mm. As I was running away from this person, because I saw the person, but I don't remember the face. It was a masculine energy. I remember crossing a bridge over what was like where there were gondolas. Okay.
That'd be
Into
Venice.
yeah, but I went through a boutique. There was a boutique there. As I opened the door, ran through this boutique, and it was all hats. It was like beautiful hats. I ran through it, opened up the back door. Okay, here we go. I opened up the door and I'm like in this dark hallway. I turn around and there's this gold spiral portal spinning in circles. And I just walk right through this gold portal. And I woke up. Boom. So I don't know that was past life regression. So I don't know if that was another timeline, another portal. I don't know. But it was like, okay, I'm gonna describe, like Doctor Strange. And I did this in 2016, this past life regression. But you know, in the Doctor Strange movies, how when he waves his hand in circles, that gold ring.
Right.
Okay, it was completely full of a gold, like a giant gold spiral. So there was no hole, there was nothing. It was just like this gold portal spinning. I walked through it and then I woke up. So, what is
So
your opinion on that?
I feel like that is actually very possibly what did happen is you walked into another dimension, back into this reality, and another perspective you may not realize that you described actually does show up in another famous Hollywood movies trilogy series,
It does? Which one?
Matrix.
Does it?
So the third movie, I believe it's the third movie where they start out, yeah, it's the third
I
movie
haven't seen it. I'm gonna have to watch it.
where they open the door and before they meet the architect, he is shown that he goes through a door, he's guided into this well-lit hallway, and as he opens up doors, it's different periods in his life. Like he opened one door and he saw himself falling. He opened another door and he seen him meeting Neo, or not Neo, Morpheus for the first time.
Okay.
And so when you were explaining, opening the door into the dark hallway with the golden spiral,
Yeah, I turned around. It was right there. I walked
I
right
was
into it.
like, you broke out of the Matrix
Oh my gosh. I
for a
broke.
moment. You were
Yeah.
out of the Matrix in the real world for a moment. And the thing we have to realize, and I know this is where I go with writing through the unknown. There are so many things that society has taught us are impossible or you're crazy for thinking
Mm-hmm. And we're
that
not.
are more true than not. And so we're living in a time of where everyone's wanting disclosure and they're wanting it to be this presentation where they have files you can read or a book or a newscast where they tell you, oh, this is, the lie that's been pulled over our eyes, and here's the truth, and this is what's real. And that's not how it's going to happen. It's not going to look like that.
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood has certain movies where certain studios have done the disclosure. Marvel is one of them. The flying aircraft carriers that you see in the Marvel movies that
Mm-hmm.
Shield uses, those are very real.
Wow.
The super soldier of Captain America, that's real. That program is very real and is used for nefarious means and good means.
I believe it.
The
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars movies are true stories of galactic war that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek is a true story of what is going on in the universe, multiverse, omniverse right now. That we are, if you wanted to look at in the storyline of Star Trek, we are getting ready to start our journey into Star Trek Enterprise, where we just are starting to learn we can go out into space and has to learn how to handle negotiations and encounters with other beings because the way we've been taught is not the right
Mm-hmm.
way.
Mm-hmm.
We don't go in guns blazing,
Right.
ask questions later. We are seriously been denied a whole lot of stuff. Like example is Tesla could light up an entire field with light bulbs without any source of electricity.
Really?
And that information was bought up and kept from us. We'd have flying cars now if he was allowed to keep his science going and his theories going. He
Mm-hmm.
understood how the energy of the earth moved in a way nobody else has been able to. And we're starting now to understand it and get to it. So that's why it took us so long to get to free energy.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who are brave enough to bring about the free energy, their lives are threatened by the conglomerates who want you to pay for
Mm-hmm.
energy because that's how they make their money and their
Power and
power.
money. Power and money.
And
Always.
one thing that has been brought up that we have never questioned or thought about is we are the only culture, and when I say culture, I mean entire planet wide, where we pay to live on our own planet we were born on. Think about this. We
Mm-hmm.
pay to live where we are born and where we live.
Mm-hmm.
From the day we were born,
Mm-hmm.
we are paying somebody else to have a right to live.
Yeah, exactly. To survive, to live. In many
And
ways.
so that's one of the big movements that's coming around in the ascension is when you hear people talk about your sovereignty is they're not meaning your like are you royalty or are you, you know, a special person? No.
We're all
They're
special.
saying I no longer am going to be a slave to
Right.
a system that has been designed to suppress me.
Yes. Amen. Yes.
And one fact is if you look at one of the things that's most interesting that happened in the past 5 years was if you remember, they were tearing down statues of Civil War veterans and Revolutionary War veterans and wanting to tear down monuments to the founding fathers. And everybody bought into, well, because they were slaves and or slave owners. And half the people that they were wanting to tear down fought against slavery. So they just hate to coin the phrase, but drank the Kool-Aid and just believed whatever.
They
And
just believed what society was telling them. We have to think for ourselves. What is right and what is wrong.
right,
I don't like saying right and wrong, but from a higher perspective, we can't keep listening like following the herd. We can't keep just listening to what society wants to us to listen to, because we're
right,
being suppressed. We are being enslaved in a way of thinking.
right. And the reason a lot of those, like the monuments to Lincoln and Jefferson and Washington, were targeted is Washington and Jefferson were a part of, if you can picture this, about 2% of the population in the colonies, and they overthrew an empire that was number one on naval warfare.
Mm-hmm.
They had territories all over the world, and we broke free of that. That's what we're told. And that we became our own nation. We were no longer supposed to be subjects of England. We were our own individuality. And what's interesting is when you look at that, we were freed from England, but yet we still use English systems. And I doubt a lot of people are going to know this, but when you become a lawyer in America, you have to take the bar exam.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The bar exam is British. That means you are now subject to Britain law. That is not an American system. So that's a way we've all been bought into the American bar is American lawyers. No, they're British subjects now. And it's little things like this that I've started to uncover and started to learn when I delved into the esoterics is there is so much going on in our own history in our own world that we are completely unaware of because we just blindly accept what people tell us
I think that's
in power.
right. I think that's truly what it's about. Just as a planet, as a planet coming together and understanding that we're listening to what people in power or are operating in power and ego and greed want us, they're feeding to us. I think all as one is truly about, like we're talking about ascension, about waking up, about not being oppressed, not following the herd.
I have learned is quite simply an acronym. And when you hear this, I don't know if how you're going to react, but to me, it's like everything in life just clicked for me in understanding a lot of things. So, ego stands for Earth Guide Only. It's what allows you to function in a three-dimensional
Mm-hmm.
world here on this planet of duality, which is only found here
Mm-hmm.
on this planet amongst ourselves. We created that system as well. That was no other culture really has duality in the stars. And this is the reason why a lot of star beings don't want us in space because we have a lot of these antiquated notions that we put on ourselves that limits us and suppresses us without us
Exactly.
even realizing it. So when you think about this as an earth guide only, does that not start to make sense why you do so many of the things that you do?
Because I've been broken so much that I have very little ego. So like I had to be it's true. I had to be broken, humbled. Um I just I think just through my spiritual practices, being humbled and broken like this, like we want to strip away the ego, the self importance, the division, the labels. We use labels, yes, because society, that's how we can understand things. It's like, what do you do for a living? Oh, can you tell me about your job? Not really. Like, I don't even know how to describe who I am and what I do. Let me try and break it down so you have an idea, right? And I think that goes for all of us. But it's like,
Well done. That's the ego. Is
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's like I don't know what to tell you. Like we are capable of so much more. We are so much more than an ego or a persona or a label or what society wants to place us in this box. So it's like when we are, it's not about the 3D. It's not about everything you see. It's about the soul.
so here's another way to look at it, and it's kind of a mix of proverbs from the ancient times that I've kind of put together and reworded for myself to make sense out of when people ask me, like, ego is, look at the rich man. The rich man holds on to his money because he guards it with his life, because that's what makes him rich. So
And
he
it
doesn't
doesn't.
help anybody,
Mm-hmm.
or he's very particular on who he helps.
Right.
Then you get the poor man who gives everything he has to help others and keeps only what he needs to maintain what he has. And when we go to the quote pearly gates, and I say quote because, that's all up to however you believe
Mm-hmm.
when you go to heaven. The rich man goes up, he'll be greeted at the gate and allowed entrance, and all of the wealth that he gathered will be stripped away. So
Mm-hmm.
that is only good for the earth. That only works on the earth. The poor man who goes up and gave everything gets the same welcome, gets to go to the same place, has the same experience, but gives up nothing. The true rich person. They both were. That's the thing. It's all a matter of perspective. He who has nothing, when you turn into energy, you're still going to have nothing, because I can't take a car with me. I can't take, you know, in actuality, we don't even take our what we call meat suits with us.
No.
We turn into pure energy. So we
Yeah.
literally, everything that works here on this planet is only designed to be here on this planet. It's the only place that's got any value. So when you are looking and judging yourself based on what you have versus what other people have,
And you shouldn't do that.
take a step back and look at and go, well, how much of that is really going to benefit them on the other side of the plane? It doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
I'll clue you. So don't even fret over who has more, who has less. Just be who you are. That
Is
is
this your
the true.
golden? Is that your golden nugget?
I wouldn't say this is a golden nugget for the end. Your job, you are not.
Mm-hmm.
What car you drive, you are not.
Mm-hmm.
How many friends you have, you are
Mm-hmm.
not. What kind of house you have. When the true essence of who you are is when you can wake up in the morning and say, wow, I am blessed to be able to take this breath. I am blessed to be here.
Amen to that. Yep.
You go through your day, you do all your interactions, you go to sleep, and you go, did I live a good life today?
Yes. Thank you
Do I
so much
have
for this.
any
Yeah.
regrets? If I don't wake up tomorrow, do I have any regret? You are the richest person, the most valued person in the world.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think that's what I was trying to get at. We're saying it, and it's we're saying it in different ways, but exactly what you just said. Yeah. We are not defined by the material. We are defined by the energy, by the soul, by the spirit, by the love, That's what makes someone truly rich, healthy, wealthy, and blessed. So, and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's not, plus, people are on different timelines or have, different stages of their life, different blessings, different this, different jobs. For the 3D, there is no competition or, that person has more than I do, so why is that? No, no, no. Where are you in your life and what makes you wealthy and rich on the inside? It's an energy.
And a step further on that is we all came here with
Mm-hmm.
our own lessons to learn.
Yes.
We don't know what everyone's lessons are. So a person who is truly, like, say, has $1 million
Mm-hmm.
coming in every day,
Mm-hmm.
maybe learning the lesson of what is it like to have this, and how, and wanted to know how it does control you and how it
Absolutely.
affects you. So they're going to have that to learn that lesson.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, completely.
You may not have that lesson, so you don't need to have the $1 million every day to experience it. Does it make life easier? There's a lot of people that would say yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I would argue and say, that's a matter of perspective,
It is.
because
It depends.
money can buy a lot of things, but it doesn't buy happiness. That's
No,
the
it does
thing.
not. I know that firsthand.
And so a lot of
No.
people have always asked me, like, why don't you do this or that to, you could be making, say, millions of dollars doing, this. And I'm like, that's not why I do it.
Yeah.
I'm not in it for the millions of dollars. If somebody handed me a check for $1 million, would I turn it away? Yeah.
You're like, no.
I'm like, I know people I could use it to help.
Yeah.
I could
Aw.
give it to organizations.
I
I
love
could take
that.
care of things for myself that,
Right.
I've put off, and, I'd spurt it out. And would I be
Right.
upset when it was ended? No,
No.
because it gave me what I wanted in that moment. And if someone came up to me and then said, hey,
Because it's a tool.
you got a
Money is a
million
tool.
dollars, I need $1 million. I'd be like, hey, sorry, I don't have it. It doesn't make me, less of a person because I don't have it. It's
No, not at all. Are you kidding me? You're one of the most incredible people I have ever encountered in this lifetime. I don't know what other lifetimes or other dimensions I've met you, but in this one, you're awesome. Money has nothing to do with um, the value of an individual at all.
right. And one thing I want to reiterate and state clearly for all the parents out there, whether you're a single parent or both parents, the fact that your child is there and comes home every day, whether in a good mood to see you or not, or, will speak to you or not, that doesn't reflect on you being a parent. What reflects on you being a parent is you brought a life into this world that knows deep in their heart, whether they express it or not, they can always come to you. You're
Mm-hmm.
always there to listen. You're not going to bail them out. You're not going to buy them. You don't need to give them everything they want for their effect. Be there.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. You just need to be there, yeah, to the best of their ability. Because of course we're imperfect. Everyone is constantly evolving and growing and learning, doing the best that they can do. But I agree with you. Just being
Yeah.
there.
As long as you listen when they're ready to talk, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't take over and say, well, this is how you fix it, and you ask them how do they want to fix it if something needs fixing, that's your job. That's being a parent.
Mm-hmm.
That's the greatest gift you can give your offspring, is to just be there.
Yeah.
Don't judge yourself based on how they're acting, because I think that's where a lot of parents get misguided, is because they think, oh my God, raising this kid when
Yeah.
they were little, that everything was, I was on top of the world with them, and now they're slamming doors in my face. They don't want to talk to me. What did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong.
It's an
Stop thinking you
individual.
did anything wrong.
Yeah, it's an individual. I love how the masculine stepping in. Stop thinking you did anything wrong, and I'm so gentle. No, I think it's you're right, because as people, as adults, your parents continue to grow, right? And they go through because if you think, let's think about it this way. There's a lot of adults who have children who are going through awakenings, dark night of the souls, separations, have been under attack, and we'll get there, but have gone through a lot, or have gotten out of abusive situations, having to heal and take on those missions, those challenges, right? Trials and tribulations, and then having their children who are also have their own soul's journey, and they're trying to be the best parents that they can be. And keep in mind, everybody has different personalities, different energies that surround them, different hormones. I mean, all of these things come into play, right? And then they're trying to assist and help their child heal. It is not easy. It's not. So I think
Right.
basically it's showing yourself and others grace, gentleness, and love to and forgiveness for to yourself and to others, but having compassion and grace, because we are imperfect, we are not perfect, there is no manual, and we come back here without a memory. We're like, wait, we have to figure everything out. What's going on? Like, I don't remember this. I don't remember signing up for this. Did I really think I could take on all of this? Apparently yes. And we don't want to enable things that are going to, okay, as much as we love, right? We love our children. We want to give them what they want. Okay, I'm going to give you a really good example. Okay, I'm going to give you a story, true story. My father, my grandmother, my father, and my mother, most of my family has passed, okay? They're all with me in spirit. But my dad was the youngest of two boys. And my grandma and grandpa absolutely loved both their kids. And my dad wanted a Harley so badly. And my grandparents were like, okay, when the time is right, yes, we'll think about it. They're really dangerous, but, we want to, if you're going to get one, it's going to be very safe. Well, he had a friend, um, I think he was from Hungary. It was his best friend. And he had an old Harley Davidson that they had fixed up, and it was not safe at all. And he goes, Mom, my dad goes to my grandparents. He's like, yeah, my friend has a motorcycle. He'll sell it to me for very cheap. I love it. This is what I want. And my grandpa looked at him and said, no, no way. You're not getting that. And my dad's like, why? I want it. And he said, no, you're not getting it. Not at all. They made my dad wait, work hard. And then one day my dad came out of the house, and there was because he didn't have a car. He wanted a bike. That's what he wanted at the time. He surfed in Malibu. I don't know how he got there with his motorcycle and a surfboard, but they got him, I don't know. They got him the right bike at the right time as his vehicle. But they didn't just say, sure, you can have whatever you want because we're going to give you this bike, and something really bad can happen just because it's going to make you happy and we love you. No, you're going to have to wait for the right time when we approve. And then when you've earned it, we will give it to you. As much as they loved my dad and wanted to give him what he wanted, if it was dangerous, or let's say something happened to where it could not be reversed and he passed, so it's like we don't just say yes to our children. No. We have to
Right.
guide them. We have to guide them. We have to wait for the right time, and we have to make sure that they're safe. And that something does not happen to them, yes, that can't be reversed.
Yeah, and it plays into the, as I'm sure you heard growing up, the you'll understand when you're older clause that was always said to us when we would question why we couldn't have something we wanted.
My parents like to say, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, I had that too, but
I'm like, what? What are you
yeah,
doing?
it's, some of the toughest lessons I've had to learn. I didn't like going through them, but I'm much better because of them.
Right.
And so that is the greater gift of being silver spoon, so to speak, of if I get a car accident, you just buy me another car. Well, how does that teach me
It
to
doesn't.
be a better driver?
That's funny because that actually happened to my brother. My parents bought him three different cars. He crashed every single car. They did not buy me one car. I worked my butt off to get my car. I worked for everything that I have, um, and everything I let go of, and everything I have now. But it's so interesting you say that because, yeah, he crashed. I believe it was three cars, and they were like, I'm not getting you anymore. But I was like, well, can I have a car? Nope, you got to work for yours, Molly.
Well,
So
and
it's
an
good.
another interesting perspective on that is when I was driving and after my first accident, I put my driver's license on the table and said I was done.
Mm hmm.
I was not going to drive again because it's too much responsibility
Right.
and it's too dangerous. And I came up with all these reasons why.
Mm hmm.
And my parents looked at me and they said, pick up your license, put it in your pocket. Maybe tomorrow you'll change your mind
Mm
and you'll
hmm.
want to drive. But for the rest of the day, don't drive if you don't want to. And they weren't enabling me not to drive. They were just giving me
The space, the time.
space to calm down, reevaluate,
Right.
reassess, and reprioritize. And yeah, then I got behind the wheel again and drove. And today, I'm one of those rare people you could put me in a car and I could drive coast to coast
Yeah.
by myself if I wanted to
Right.
and
Right.
be having the time of my life, or
I love road trips.
go down south for an hour or two away. It makes no difference to me.
Mm-hmm.
I just love being behind the wheel, and
Yeah. Because you took the time to heal from whatever that was, whatever traumatic event, which was the accident, and your parents were supportive of it. And you had the time. And then now you're at the point where you enjoy it.
yeah, and they didn't blame me. I was never, there was no question of, what were you doing that caused this? Why did you do it? It was just a simple, are you okay? Is the car drivable? Do we need to take it into the shop?
Right.
Are you going to be able to afford the repairs?
Mm-hmm.
And, all of that. And that to me, I think, was what enabled me to want to do it again and drive, not have the accident, but drive, is because I knew I had done it wasn't a judgment.
Mm-hmm.
There was no judgment on it. And yeah, there are times when, other accidents happen and they're like, well, why did you do this? What, what? You need to be honest and fess up what happened and paid the price for it.
Hold you accountable,
But
which is good.
here's another example when you ask me, how, being different.
Mm-hmm.
When I was growing up, and if I was not going to be home at night, I would call them to let them know.
Mm-hmm.
And if I wasn't the one, like if I was with my sisters and we were going to be late, I'd be in the back seat saying, "We got to call. We got to let them know we're going to be late." And they would just be like, "Stop, we can, they'll be asleep. They'll never know." I was like, "No, we got to fess up." I was always
With
being the
integrity, that's
overly
integrity.
honest.
No, but that's
Is
having integrity. That's doing what's
right.
right. That's good.
Yeah, and my parents would laugh when they would talk to family friends and they'd say, if I did something like was out late and didn't call, it was so out of character for me. They would be like, "Go to bed. We'll talk about it in the morning." Because I don't think they knew how to handle it because it
Mm-hmm.
was so out of character. Like, what could possibly have happened that would prevent me from doing what I normally did?
Yeah.
And experiences just, yeah. And so I was always like, if I was at a friend's house and we were doing something and I knew curfew was coming close, I'd call and say, "Hey, can I stay out another hour?" They'd be like, "Fine, go ahead."
Yeah, because you communicated.
Yeah.
I love that you're talking about yourself. I know that like you don't really disclose like too much personal information. So this is actually, I am very grateful that you're, because I don't even know how to express this. I'm very touched right now because you're really talking about your personal life
Yeah.
and your personal experiences, not just about like your spiritual, like the work that you do and everything, but you're actually like really diving deep. And this is going to be very healing for people, to see another side of you, and it's going to touch a lot of people's lives. So,
So, yeah. So, growing up for me, I described it as growing up in a civil war.
wow. Okay.
There was family members who accepted us for what we believed and who we were. And then there were family members who didn't want anything to do with us. And one thing I will share, and it's the hardest thing for me to share because to me, it's like, I wish this on nobody, not even my worst enemy. But when I was growing up, so there's two folds to this story, and I'll share it in sequence. Is growing up, all of my gifts from my dad's side of the family, his parents, your grandparents, you think, they're the ones that love you unconditionally and everything. All the gifts that I got from them were used gifts from the other cousins in the family. Like coloring books would have half the pages colored, or books would have marks in them from where the other kids in the family, you know, did what they needed to do. And then they were done with it. So it was handed to us. So I really grew up feeling like I didn't matter. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't, there was like there was no point. It didn't matter to them. And these are the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally. So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of programmed into my brain through all of this that, you know, there's no point. There's no point in loving because nobody's going to love. If my own grandparents can't love me, who else would? So don't even, so I didn't even date until I was really senior in high school and college. There's no point
Yeah.
because, and when I graduated high school, my dad's parents said, if you come to the airport on our way to Vegas. We'll see you. Otherwise, sorry, we can't make your graduation. But they went to all the other kids' graduations. So it was like really apparent that I was just nothing to them. And my dad and his brother both had sons, and his dad only wanted daughters. So it was like it wasn't anything directed towards me because of something I did. It's he just, because my dad was a boy, that's why I was casted out.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And when I graduated with my associate's degree, he said to me, that's only a 2-year degree. Contact me when you get a real degree.
Wow.
And so then I graduated with an associate's degree that I created. It was a program that didn't exist that I created for myself. And you think that's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, I think so.
Again, I was told we are going to Vegas. If you skip your graduation and come see us at the airport, we'll gladly spend our layover with you. Otherwise, we're just going to go to Vegas and you can go walk your ceremony. It's not important enough for us to be there. And I learned after my grandfather died, and this is the only reason I call him grandfather, is I went to see him on his deathbed, and he rolled over, looked at me, and says, "Are you still working for your dad?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "That's good." Rolled back over. That was his last words to me.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's it? There's no sorry for this or that, or no love, no nothing. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, all right, you made your bed. I want nothing to do with you. And so I made a conscious choice of I don't want any kids because I don't want this pattern to be in this world again through me. I I am going to choose to stop this pattern. And so I kind of was like, yeah, I don't want to have kids because this is horrible. I don't want to risk becoming this to a child of mine. And it was about probably a year or two after he passed, maybe a little bit sooner. But I was at a medium circle and somebody goes, "Can you take a Brad?" And I was like, "I have a cousin, Brad." It turned out to be my grandfather.
Wow.
Lied to get himself into
Mm-hmm.
a mediumship circle because he knew I wouldn't talk to him if he said his name.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, the reason why I treated you the way I did was in a past life, you were my brother or father. I don't remember. I think I was brother. And I committed a crime to where the tribe was going to put me to the stake, burn me at the stake for my
Whoa.
crime.
Okay.
I took his place and was burned at the stake in his
Whoa.
place. And he said, every time I saw you, I could see those fires in my eyes looking at you,
Whoa.
and I could not reciprocate, so I kept you away.
There's always a
And I was like,
reason.
I can understand that. And
Mm-hmm.
so he is now one of my guides that
Yep.
watches over me.
Yep.
But my dad's mom, I've heard nothing.
When the time
And
is
I
right,
feel
you
like
will.
she was more of a viper than he was. And so I have no love loss over that. And, I'm like, she is what she is. She's made her bed.
Spirits
And
elevate, though. That's why it's very important that we pray for our ancestors. We have to pray for their ascension, their elevation, for them to go to the light and to be surrounded by the enlightened spirits. I mean, because they will, this about suffering spirits. You know that there are negative spirits and that, anyways, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
no, I was about to say,
Yeah.
I view her in the light of I don't know what lesson she came to learn, so
Yeah.
I have no energy towards her whatsoever. I don't give her time of day, and I don't celebrate or think about her birthday or anything because I pretty much had it in I'm 46, so I pretty much had probably 40 years of absentee from them.
Yeah. No, I understand what
So
you're saying.
yeah, it's like I'm not feeling any remorse. And the reason I bring this up is because the biggest lesson that I learned out of this, and I'm hearing it from other people, and it kind of makes me chuckle in my heart, is I will hear people say, my family is not blood. It's the people that are around me. And I said, yeah, I learned that some 20 some years ago that just because someone is
Mm-hmm.
related to you does
Mm-hmm.
not make you their family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of people who stay in relationships that are toxic and they will give them a pass because they're family and mistreating them. And I'm like,
Right.
no, that's not, it shouldn't be that way. If
Be- because,
someone's not treating you right, you
right.
don't have to stay with them because they're related.
Well, yeah, because it's the spirit, and see, that's where people are finally understanding this. That's a negative attachment, negative. That's wounding. That's darkness. And we all carry it, but we have a choice, So it's the spirit, the individual spirit that we carry, because we could have known them, like we were talking about, past lives or different dimensions, and we could meet them in this life, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
So I have two guy friends that I've known since high school or college, and I call them brother, and they call me brother. We
mm-hmm.
have no relations. We're not related on any level, but to me, they have stood by me through thick and thin.
Right.
They don't always agree with me,
And
and
that's
we've
okay.
had controversial conversations about stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but in the end, they're still here. And they don't turn like to other people and go, "Oh my God, you should see my friend. He did this or that." It's like, no, there's a respect
Mm-hmm.
and foundation to our relationship. And to me, that is how I define family.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I say to people, yeah, I have a, small family, it's because there are a small group of people I'm related to that are family.
Mm-hmm.
My cousin Chani and her son Tyler and her daughter, those are family to me, even though I've never met in person my two cousins from her, but we talk and, it's like we understand each other on a deeper level because we both have experienced the grandparents and seen what it did.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's really interesting that I want to share with everyone too is, as I mentioned, my dad and his brother both had sons. I was the second born son. So the heir to the name was my other cousin, Christopher, and he got all the blessings from the family, so to speak. And when he passed away, you would think, oh, I'm now the heir to the namesake, so I would be in good graces with everybody. Nope, it changed nothing,
Yeah.
except I actually got accused of stealing something from my grandfather, which I never got.
Well,
That
yeah.
that that was my gift of being the heir to the throne of the namesake, was being accused of theft. And when I said I never got it, they accused me of lying about it. And so they all think I've stolen this watch that I've never gotten.
Wow.
And
That's
so it's like it really reinforced that, yeah, I don't matter to these people.
it's not your
And
tribe. It's not your it's not your that's not your family. That is what a lot of people whether, I don't know how you feel about this, but so like I like to say false partnerships in many different ways, right? Or people will say karmic family members. They're for our learning and growth and evolution in this lifetime, you know, and how we
you're
are
nicer
going.
than me.
What?
I said, you're nicer than me. I just call him a tool.
Yeah, I
Just
don't.
a tool to
I
bring me
don't.
here.
Yeah, but it's these are
But
individuals that we encounter that are consumed with wounding, negative spiritual energy entities that we encounter as like we're going to talk about you as being a light being here that is making an impact on the planet, right? Being different,
right.
even since you were brought into the world. And then what happens is you're surrounded by negativity, wounded individuals. Yeah, and then you have to break free from this. So it's a part of your mission or many missions. So,
And I don't mean to interrupt, but I was like thinking about something, and I wanted to clarify is
mhm.
because I use the term civil war, and
Mhm.
I know nothing I've said really is like that's not really war, so to speak. But there, so my dad's sister, one of them deals with stuff that shouldn't be dealt with, like dark magic. It's a known fact. The family knows it, and they don't do anything to stop it.
Mhm.
And she turned, or how it looks optics wise, is she turned like my sisters against us. She divided our family. So there was a schism because of the lies they were sharing. My sisters bought into them, and this is where the war comes in for me is I tried to keep a relationship with my sisters but couldn't, so I had to let them go. That's why I now say I have two estranged sisters. One I'm working on maybe mending the fence with now, again, and may not.
Is she still
I don't know.
operating in spiritual darkness, being attached to the other individual?
Actually, she kind of is teetering a little bit. She talks a lot of stuff that we're aligned with, and but she's still deep into the church. So we got that to deal with. But that aside, they came to my workplace my aunt and two sisters
Mm-hmm.
and told my boss that they needed to talk to me. And my boss was like, "You got family outside, this is work hours." And I was like, "I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't have family around here." Because I hadn't talked to my sisters for a couple of years now when this happened. And I walk outside and it's them. And I'm like, "Are you guys trying to get me fired?" And they're like, "Well, we need you to tell us everything that's going on with your parent, with mom and dad, because we need you to understand all the lies that are going on." And I was like,
What?
"You guys understand the only lies are the lies you guys are spreading.
Yeah.
I've lived through all of this." And I even wrote a letter to both my sisters and said, "If this is how you're going to act, I'm going to have to disown you as my sisters because this is not right. And
Right.
I cannot abide by this." And they turned around and said that my parents wrote that letter.
I think
And I
it's
was like, that was mine.
yeah.
And so that's where the Civil War comes in,
Mm-hmm.
is they were trying to pull me into their manipulation. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't buying, I wasn't biting.
Mm-hmm.
And I would literally be going everywhere, looking over my shoulder for the longest time, being like, are they behind me? If I do this, is this going to be okay?
And you learned how to protect yourself.
So when you say what was the catalyst
Right.
really
Are
that
we going?
started the spiritual growth,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
was trying to figure out what I did wrong to cause all of this family schism and try to make sense of this family schism to fix it. Because in my mind, if I'm to help humanity, how can I help humanity if I can't help my family? So that's where I learned, okay, what is family? Redefined family,
Mm-hmm.
redefined who I was, what I doing. So that
Because it
is
starts with you.
why I learned gypsy palm reading, why I learned Reiki, why I learned timeline therapy, why I learned Huna magic, was all under the guise of trying to understand how to fix something that was broken that wasn't mine to fix. That was the lesson I learned probably 10 years ago.
And in turn, you
Within
learned a
10
lot
years.
about yourself, and it woke you up to this
Yeah.
massive journey. I
And
would.
I actually surprisingly feel really good.
Oh, I'm so glad. Oh, that makes me so happy. I'm glad. Yeah, this is has been a very touching and very beautiful interview podcast. I'm so happy that you're sharing all of this. And I think it's going to touch a lot of people. It's on such a real level, but yet also touches on, spirituality and metaphysics and so many different things. But I would love to do another one so we can get more in depth with other areas of your life as well. Is there anything that you want to share with anyone that you before we go that you think would be really helpful or guide anyone or just anything you want to share before we end it?
Well, first off, I want to thank you because, yeah, this is exclusive to you and your work. And so thank you for doing what you're doing and doing this show and your other show.
Oh, you're
So,
welcome. Thank
everyone,
you.
make sure you follow everything that she's doing.
Oh, Michael,
And
you're so sweet.
I'm not going to even attempt the name right now because it's like my mind is so in a whirlwind with everything going on. But I believe it's Crossing the Ocean Meets the Rose.
Crossroads meets the Ocean Rose.
There you go. The funny story is she told me that the first time we met, and I don't know why I have such a hard time with her show name, but I always want to change its title.
It's for my guardian angels and my gypsies, main spirit guide. So,
No, I know it's a beautiful
yeah.
name and
Oh,
I
thank
love
you.
it and it's so fitting and yeah, I just yeah, it's just a little quirky fun that's between us is, I always got to look up when I'm typing to promote the show going,
That's so
let me
nice of
make
you.
sure I
Thank
get
you.
this right.
Thank you. Mm. Well,
But what I would share is no matter how dark, so here's your golden nuggets that you asked for.
oh, I love it when you do this on your show. Okay, thank you.
No matter how dark or low or feeling lost you may be, don't give up because the person around the corner that you meet next may be the helping hand that you've been asking for that'll lift you up and bring you back into the light and help you find the support and everything you need. And if you need proof of that, there's this story that I was taught of this family living in a house that's got a huge storm and it's starting to flood. And so they go to this second level and they pray to God, you need to help us and get out of here. We're faithful and everything. And they get up onto the roof and the water's rising up to the roof level. And this boat arrives and the captain on the boat says, "Hey, I got room on here for you and your family. Come on, let's go." And they're like, "No, God is going to save us." And they go on, and the water keeps coming up from the storm. And they're now on the chimney, and a helicopter comes by, and they say, "No, God's going to save us. Thank you, though." So the helicopter leaves. They end up drowning. They get to the pearly gates. They meet God, and they said, "God, how did you kill us? We were so faithful and everything." And God looks at him and says, "What did you want? I sent you a boat and a helicopter."
God will send people into people's lives, yes, absolutely, to help assist them and on their journeys and deliver them from some of the darkest days and lift them into the light. And we just have to be aware of it. So I agree with you.
Yeah, so don't judge what it should look like. Be open to everything. And so the other
Angels
part
in
of that
disguise.
nugget would be is check the resonance. And what I mean is how it feels to you, your gut feeling. If the person feels right and helpful, go for it. If they don't, wait for the next person. There's no harm in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Aw, thank you, Michael. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
everything you shared. Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening and your support and love. And thank you for tuning in. So I'm just going to send you guys love. And we always pray that you're surrounded by the Most High God's protection, love, and blessings. All right. Bye, everyone.